Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Showcase on Warframe. Today's weapon, I figure I might as well get it out of the way, the Kunai. It's an old weapon. A very old weapon. I'm not sure if it was here in the beginning or near the beginning, but it's been here since I started playing the game. Around almost 5 years ago now. So yeah, it's an old weapon. And the stats kind of reflect that. It is not a critical nor a status weapon. The base stats are a bit laughable. It only has 10 in the magazine, and the fire rate could be better. The only thing it really has going for it is a very quick reload. So you kind of get the idea where this is going to go. But no matter. In most aspects it is a beginner weapon, even though they have a Mach 1 Kunai, and I won't be covering the Mach 1 Kunai in here because it's just the same thing, just weaker. So I see no purpose of actually talking about it. But yes, even though we have a Mach 1, the Kunai, is the plain one, is still a beginner weapon. So if you really do want it, you'll find it in the secondary section of the marketplace. When you click on the blueprints only, you'll find it to be a few rows down. Alright, to make the Kunai is relatively very cheap. You only need 15,000 credits, 5 morphics, 3,000 ferrite, 4,000 nanospores, and 4,000 salvage. All very cheap materials that come in large bulk. Well, maybe not the morphics, but they're not that hard to find. So yes, very affordable for almost every player, even ones who are new. Let's move on. Okay, now let's get some extra information on this. Now visually, well, the kunais. If you want to go look at throwing daggers, you'll find a lot of them look like this, has a really fine point on them. Most throwing daggers are actually blunted at the edges, and only at the point is it sharp. And these are probably the same case since your character likes to hold them by those points. When throwing in midair, they're actually invisible most of the time. But to get a fine distance, here's the best zooming I can get with you with my equipment. So that's the whole dagger there with the ring on the back. I got 2 for multi-shot. Alright, and also you got the holsters, which are fairly basic pouches. Though it says, by going by that, you only see we only get 8 knives. Where the rest come from, I'm not sure. But regardless, I think we've seen enough visually. There's nothing really distinctive. Now function-wise, you can see that with all the mods on I have, they're pretty quick. Projectile speed could be better, but it's alright. Mainly the fast reload, because there's a reload right there. You blink, you can almost miss it. That's pretty much the best thing, but let's move on. So here's my ultimate build for what that's worth. I say that because, well, it's a base build and that only goes so far. But regardless, I almost got 1400 puncture. I have a couple other things on here, but you see I got a couple other things too. But anyway, for damage, I got 100 strike, barrel diffusion, and bore, and no return. Those all supplement my damage. Lethal torrent also gives me more multi-shot, and a projectile, well, you know, fire rate is what I meant to say. Also, I threw on concealed explosives, and what this does is for every throw-in projectile for secondaries only, has 80% chance for that projectile to explode. So that's only for thrown weapons though. And I get the stockpile blight, which I got from getting some Grofit. That increased the magazine size by 200%, so it jumps from 10 to 30, so that reload doesn't happen nearly as often. So with all that said, I got 1400 puncture. How well that'll do, you'll see in a second. But next is my Riven mod, the reason why I did this. And that Riven mod is pretty powerful. I got 180% multi-shot. And that's pretty much doubling the multi-shot I had already, so that takes it from 900 around there to what I have now. And then I have that zoom, 127% zoom. Man, that's a lot. To the point where it actually hinders the weapon, but I don't find it to be a huge problem. So yeah, it's sniper level zoom on a throwing knife. Yeah, it's not really optimal, but you don't have to use a zoom in too much. But it's okay. Also, I should mention those concealed explosives have a good range on them, so you gotta be careful not to kill yourself a bit. You see from there, I easily killed myself. Alright, moving on from that, let's get on to the actual testing. Let's start off with some greenery here. I'll take about 6 or 8 of them. And I'll eject their level up to level 70. Yes, level 70. Not any further. So you kind of get the idea of how I feel about this. Now, in terms of damage, it's alright. But you must notice now that my magazine capacity is 210 knives. And you realize how quickly you can go through these knives. So you don't exactly get a huge amount of them. But that's all all throwing knives are the same. I did mention in the previous video that the enemies seem to be buffed, but I don't think they're really stronger per se, but they're a lot more accurate. But in terms of me killing myself, I'll do a second run, so you can get a proper look in the damage, and it's acceptable. I won't say it's awesome, I won't say it's weak, it's acceptable. And it's with everything I've done, and most of that damage, mind you, is probably the explosive damage from concealed explosives. Because most of the time I am missing my opponents. It does more damage when you hit them, but they're actually quite hard to hit at medium to long range, given the flight speed of a throwing knife. So yes, against Grineer, it could be better. The enemies don't exactly group together, so it makes it relatively difficult to use. Okay, enough of them. Let's go on against some Moas, which they will most certainly slaughter me. Why? Because I'm going to grab a double digit, probably 11. Good enough. And we'll put them at the same level, level 70. Now, the explosive damage does a lot better here since they group together, but man, the accuracy on those Moas. It's terrible. Well, it's terrible for me. Not their accuracy terrible, it's too good. They're snipers. But the damage is plenty good. Not the puncture damage, but the concealed explosives. Alright, since I got slaughtered here again, we'll just do another run. And you can see that more or less the damage is plenty good. It's acceptable again, for level 70. If I took it to level 75 to 80, I don't think I'd be saying the same. So again, I ran out of knives pretty quickly. That's the biggest issue here. Other than the lack of heavy damage, it's mainly running out of knives quickly. Trick Mag only gives you around 100 more knives. That isn't a huge amount. Let's move on to chargers. I'll take 20 of them and I'm at level 70, so I don't have to worry about them shooting at me, at least not casually. And the concealed explosives work wonderfully here. But mind you, you can use other web throwing knives. The Haiku Prime are probably best for this idea, but nonetheless I have the kunais here now. The only thing I have to worry about is not killing myself with the concealed explosives. But I do is pretty good. But now let's do against the level 145 Heavy Gunner, Corrupted Heavy Gunner, the enemy with the highest armor rating in the game. Well, I tell you, it doesn't do a whole lot. Only doing around 20 damage there. That armor's pretty heavy. Not getting through it. But I think I've shown enough. Let's move on to the pros and cons now. Alright, moving on to the pros and cons of the kunai. On the pros, it has incredibly fast reload time. That's it. Well, I guess I could say it's cheap. But really, that's it. And that's a bit of a moot point. On the cons, the damage is a bit lackluster. You don't really have enough knives in surplus for today's builds. And it's heavily outclassed by every other throwing knife in the game. Other than the Mach 1 version. So yeah. Moving on to the score. Damage, I give it a 5 out of 10. It's alright for damage. It's an upgrade from the Mach 1s, but that's not saying a whole lot. Accuracy, a 7 out of 10. It's alright accuracy. The flight speed is still a bit slower, but the accuracy and grouping is pretty good. Design-wise, I give it a 5 out of 10. I can't really penalize it for default for design. It's an old weapon, so I'll give it a 5 out of 10, the middle point. Ammo though, 3 out of 10. Maybe in the past, when the mods were older, this weapon was more functional. But this weapon failed to be, it's not updated. It is not built for today's builds. It's a clear reflection of that. You run out of ammo way too quick with today's builds. Miscellaneous, a 3 out of 10. Pretty much the same reasons for the ammo, it's just an old weapon, it's outclassed. Every other throwing knife, almost every other throwing knife, does better. And you should really replace it upon using it and after unlocking better stuff. So in total, the kunai gets 23 out of 50. It's a bad weapon, mainly for its age. It's outdated, and should really be replaced when it's done being used. It's a bit unnecessary to have a judgment, but I do it for every one of my modern Warframe videos. Is it worth it? Clearly not. It's just old. It needs to have an update, it needs to be buffed. Will the developers ever do it? No. They're probably more interested in creating a new knife that's more powerful. I don't blame them. I'd rather have a new knife that's more powerful. And that's been Showcase for today. I'd like to thank you all for watching and hope to see you guys next time. Take care out there.